Hello everyone, and welcome to the Game Design Archive with Edward and Ludwig. I'm Ludwig, and as always I'm here with Edward. Hello Edward.
Hello.
Today, actually last week, we talked about balancing in multiplayer games. If you remember, if you're a subscriber.
I remember.
I remember too. This week, since we didn't have time to do it last week, we're gonna talk about balancing in single player games. Now, if you remember, we were very critical of multiplayer game developers that they balance games too much last week. If you haven't seen the video, you should watch it because it's very good, I promise. But as we mentioned in last week's video, we are basically of the opposite opinion when it comes to single player games. So Edward, why don't you?
I don't know if that's true, but because I think the same applies to single player games. I don't want balance patches after the fact, right?
That is true, yes.
The general issue is that the balance skill ceiling, or whatever you want to call it, is way lower on single player games.
Yeah.
Which makes sense because like we talked about in last week's episode about multiplayer games, they generally, since it's players versus players, the skill ceiling keeps rising, right?
Yeah.
And there is no incentive to raise the skill ceiling in a single player game, unfortunately, right?
Yeah.
Except for the fact that the game gets better, right? So I think it's we usually do. We really like to do the comparison to music, right? And I feel I maybe it's because it's so modern single player games are so focused on money, right? I don't know exactly why, but they don't seem to even want to go for skill expression or whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
Let me make this a bit more concrete. So even in I read a lot of arcade, what the indie arcade devs are doing or whatever, right? And even there, most of them are focused on this sort of surface level stuff, like, oh, how do I get new players interested or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I really don't get it. Maybe
I get it because they want to sell more games.
But why then they're making their own game, right?
Yeah.
They're not making a shmup is not gonna make you rich. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I also think it kind of misses the point because if you're making something that's very, very niche, like a shmup, you're probably better off catering to the already existing hardcore niche audience than trying to bring casuals into it, right?
Yeah. But my point is even further, even good games, right? So we're taking really good designers that are actually that they are producing good games. It's not like the games are bad. They are still oh, how do I keep they still want to reach a lot of people, and I understand that, but again, if we make the comparison to pieces of music, right? There's some insane piano pieces, right? Inhumanly hard to play. And I would like to see that in game form. And I get that there are some challenges in for example, shmups, right? But they're generally optional, right? I want to see a developer really go for something, it's all, you get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Where it's just impossible, right?
Yeah. I think there's a reason for why it is this way in video games compared to music. And I think
there's a lot of reasons actually, but
probably. But I think the main one is that making a video game is way more time intensive and expensive than writing a single piece of music, right?
Well,
I mean, you could argue that
you
like
can argue I know
yeah,
some of those pieces
like,
probably took longer than some video games.
Yes.
So I'm not sure. And also, like, we are also talking about arcade genres, right? Which are easier to make.
Yes.
Right.
But
if
even
you know
still,
what
like,
you're doing.
yes.
So, yeah, go ahead.
But what I'm saying is, like, you know, you could, like, you can make a song in the time it takes to play a song, right? And it's not necessarily good, right? And if you're making a good song, you'll probably work way harder on it for, like, possibly, you know, several hundred or thousands of hours if you want to make the most epic piece of music ever, right?
Yeah.
But, like, you can make a song in the time it takes to play a song, whereas a video game, that's not true, right? So I think that's sort of where this,
right, but
like, it's way more, how do you say, it's like, I don't want to be mean and call it a gimmick, but it's a little bit of a gimmick, right, to make it super hard to play. And I feel like a lot of developers are afraid of, like, spending so much time on a gimmick.
I don't know if I would call it a gimmick, because
no, it's a bit mean to say call it a gimmick,
but, like,
but
it's not even, like, the problem is that so again, if we take shmups as an example, there is a certain, like, a lot of people that play shmups recognize the value of skill,
yes,
like, or like skillful gameplay in the games, right? But I feel like a lot of people hit this peak or whatever, right? I don't know if peak is the right word, but this point, right, where they have gotten so good that maybe they can, like, clear a lot of games, right? But they're not really moving past that, right? So they're staying in this sort of limbo thing where, and then everything that goes beyond their skill level, that's bullshit, right? Because that's things they can't react to, and things that are in their, and I mean, basically what they want is, like, something that is slightly above their skill level, but they don't want to get, like, don't want to put in the time to get even better, if that makes sense. They want to stay at that point. And I feel like a lot of the games that are coming out in that genre are designed around that skill level. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, like, because the general audience that are gonna buy them are at that level, they need to need is wrong word, right? Because they want to provide games at that level because that's how you make money, right? But my point is that if you instead try to focus on, like, raising the skill ceiling, right?
Yeah.
Because maybe people will disagree, but if we take a game like Counter-Strike, right? The skill ceiling in a game like Counter-Strike is way higher. Like, the skill ceiling is not the right word, sorry. Like, the current level of skill of the players, right?
Yeah.
Is
of, like,
higher than basically all single player genres, except for maybe arcade genres, right? I don't know. Probably arcade genres as well, actually, because the fact that you're playing players makes them go, like, higher and higher and higher insanely fast, right?
Yeah.
And my point is that these, like, so we go back to, like, this is gimmick hard or whatever. It's like we're not even close to the skill ceiling, I feel like, in a lot of these genres, right? True. If that makes sense. You could argue in some of them, right? But I'm to be honest, I don't even think so, right? Like, even in shmups and stuff, like, sure, it's insane, but, like, people can do insane stuff, right?
Yeah. I feel like maybe this is sort of where or why speedrunning has become so popular of single player games, because it, like, offers that raising of the skill ceiling. My problem with speedrunning is that it's kind of boring and uninteresting, and but like, it's still challenging, right?
Yeah.
But essentially, you know, when you speedrun, you're trying to play as little of the game as possible.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of weird in that way.
Yeah, you just made me realize why arcade games have such a like, the skill ceiling is way more like, way higher. By mentioning the speedrunning thing, they have scoring, right?
Yeah.
So people are actually trying to beat each other, which means it's raising the skill ceiling, right?
True. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point actually. Because like if we talk about CS for example, I think we mentioned this in last week's episode. If you look at like pro games from the beginning of CS:GO, they were like pretty bad compared to like, well, maybe not bad. Bad is maybe me, but they were like comparable to a decently average player today.
Yeah.
So it's like, even though the game hasn't changed much, the like skill ceiling or whatever you want to call it, as you said, is like, it's evolved so goddamn much. Whereas like if you look at an old shmup, for example, well, actually, as you said, scoring systems are sort of,
Yeah, they help, but I still think
they help. Yeah.
I think like so like if we make a comparison, I don't remember where I read this, but there's, man, I should have looked this up, but there's this quote about like running, right, where sometime I don't remember when it was, right, but it was basically people thought it was physically impossible to run like short distances faster than a certain speed or like time, right?
Yeah.
And then one person did that at like some year, right? And then all of a sudden, people like everyone started doing it, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the sort of thing where I'm saying, where it's like, oh no, like these bosses in these shmups are impossible, like no one can do them, but like it's sort of a skill ceiling thing, right? Where I mean, I guess they technically know that those are possible, but I don't know. It's like it's hard to tell because like since difficulty is more stagnant in single player genres, it's hard to tell if we are getting, like, if the skill ceiling is rising or whatever, right? If that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I guess you can kind of see it in like the Souls games a little bit, I would say.
Yeah, that is true. They have done that.
Because the bosses do get harder and the normal enemies do get harder with time.
Yeah.
Like if you look at like the Dark Souls 1 bosses or the Demon Souls bosses or whatever, they're actually pretty easy most of the time. Whereas like comparatively easy to like some weird Elden Ring boss that someone on the internet is calling overtuned or whatever, right?
Yeah, that's a perfect example, right, of what I'm talking about, right? With like people are saying, like because of where their skill is at now,
yeah,
they are perceiving the thing that is beyond their skill as overtuned in quotation marks, right? Because that's not humanly possible or whatever, even though we know it is, because they're not, if we're talking something as mainstream as Elden Ring, they're not even close. Like they know that they're not even close because they're trying to be more mainstream, right? Which is fine, right? I'm not saying that all game, like especially at that scale, you can't just make an impossible game at that scale, right? It's too expensive. Sorry, I interrupted
you. I don't think you did, but I did have something to say anyway. So yeah, what was it? Yeah, I think the main reason that, like, I'm trying to think of other game franchises or whatever that do that, and I can't really think of anyone.
I mean, FPS has done that a lot because there's a lot of competitive FPSs. The skill ceiling in FPSs, even single player ones, is higher.
Is it really though? Like
higher than other genres for sure. Yeah.
But are there really that many good single player FPS games?
No.
Like most of them are pretty easy.
I mean,
Doom,
and like old Doom, I guess, or something. I don't know. Like some of the mods for those games, right, are probably pretty good.
Yeah, I guess.
I don't know.
And also there's like Devil Daggers and stuff, which is
Devil Daggers, yeah, for sure.
And
that's like, if there was some multiplayer games, that game would not be as hard as that is, right?
That's probably true, yeah. Yeah, so there are a few, but anyways, I think like with Dark Souls, that sort of progression is kind of natural because Dark Souls is known for its difficulty, right? So it's like if they want to keep making games for their established fan base, they need to keep making them a little bit harder because otherwise people will get bored with them.
But that's yeah. Sorry, could finish it.
Yeah, no, I was basically finished.
Yeah, no, that's so funny when you say that, actually, because that is like, we've talked about this issue in the past, right? Where like everyone is copying Souls. And the reason they're copying Souls is because they have established mechanics that people are used to. So there is some sort of, like, even if they're not raising the skill ceiling, there is some skill expression, right? Because that's fun when you can like use, like, You get what I'm saying, right? Where fighting the stuff is fun, right? Because you know when you're good is relative, right? But when you're good at something, it gets more okay. When you do things, they get more fun when you're better at them, right? And that goes for this as well. But the thing is, most devs are not like trying to raise the skill ceiling, and they're not trying new mechanical things, right? Because like we talked about when talking about clunky games, that also goes into this thing with like the skill ceiling, where it's like that's not like that's clunky, where it's like no, actually you're just bad, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same with the skill ceiling, where it's like, oh, that's overtuned. No, you're actually just bad, right?
Yeah.
And obviously there probably, like, you could argue there is a limit or whatever, and it's like how much time you want to spend on it versus how whatever. Like you can do your evaluation, but in general, I think people are like, if we go back to the shmups, right? I see this all the time, where it's like there was some bullet that was fired, and like, oh no, that was bullshit or whatever, right? And it's like, I mean, maybe, but it could just be that you're bad, right? It's hard with shmups because they are actually kind of hard, right?
Yeah,
some of them.
I think actually a better example to like prove your point would be looking at Silksong.
Yeah.
Because like Silksong actually did the Dark Souls thing, where like the second game is a bit harder than the first game.
Yeah.
And it seemed like that was very controversial, because a lot of people were mad at Silksong when it released. And they said stuff like, "Oh yeah, it's bullshit." So I think one of the like things I saw people complain about the most was like the what's it called? Oh, there's an area in the game where you have to do like a bunch of platforming, and there are quite a few annoying enemies as well. And it's kind of hard to do because the pogo is diagonal, right, in Silksong, as we've talked about a lot in previous episodes.
Yeah, which is another thing people complain about, which is another skill issue. Right?
And so I think that was like, I don't remember what the area is called. It's like it's very flowery and like red and green and stuff like that. I don't remember what the area is called. Anyways, people complain about that area, and they said like, oh yeah, it's BS that I have to do these like pogo jumping puzzles with the diagonal pogo. Why isn't the pogo straight down or whatever? And it's like, I don't know. It's kind of weird, because like, first of all,
like they're looking for a solution, right? Instead of just enjoying the game, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it boils down to like this idea that you don't want to actually struggle. It's like
but as I said before, right, even in the case where people recognize that, I see this, right? Like it's all but it's always sort of there. It's just like as people get better, like the bar is raised, but the people keep doing it wherever they are, right? They just keep, it's really like it's weird because it's not as common in other hobbies, I guess.
I mean, if we take the like super insane piano piece example, there would probably be quite a few good piano players that are going like, oh yeah, that's stupid, I'm not gonna try to do that even, because
but there might actually be piano pieces that are legit stupid.
Well,
right?
That's true. Yeah.
I mean,
you could argue that's true for games as well.
Yeah, for sure. Like some insane shmup or something. I don't
know. But yeah, I think it is a bit interesting, because like.
But then again, maybe people call them stupid. I don't know. I feel like in the piano thing, it's more like, it's not, wow, this piece is so stupid, they need to change the piece because I want to play the piece and I can't play the piece, and it's not okay if I can't play the piece, because everyone needs to be able to. I don't, not everyone, but like someone at my skill level definitely needs to play it, otherwise it's overtuned or whatever.
Yeah.
That I don't think that's what they're saying. They're like, no, I don't want to spend the time. Like, it's like they recognize where they are at with piano playing, and it's like, no, that's like this many steps more. I need to spend this much time. I'm not gonna do that, right? It's sort of a different thing.
But I do feel like there would be like a few people at least who would go like, trying to learn that is stupid because it's pointless, right? Which isn't true.
Right, that is true.
And
but that's not what they're saying with games, right? They're not saying this is because in Sims.
No, that's true. Yeah, they're saying like this is bad
saying,
design or whatever.
Yeah, they're not saying like, oh, that's too stupid for me. I'm not gonna do it, right? Because that would be honestly fine, right? That would just mean that they didn't want to play the game, right? But the thing is, with games, there is this like mentality that I guess it's the like customer mentality, right? Where like, oh, the customer is always right or whatever, and they're focusing on making sure that the developer knows that they're unsatisfied or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? Which is super lame.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting with like that kind of stuff. It's like,
and it's also weird, like, because like we said with like, again, I play a bunch of shmups right now, like a lot of shmups, and I'm not good at shmups, and like, sure, I'll complain in like, you know, like I'll play and I'll complain when I play, right? But like generally most of the time I actually enjoy things that are like insane. That's sort of one of the things that is really cool about shmups. It's like, holy whatever, right? It's like, how in the world am I supposed to do this, right?
Yeah.
And then you do it for a while and it's like, it might work. Then you do it for a little bit more and it's like, fuck yeah, I can do it now, right?
Yeah.
And that's sort of like, I don't know, it feels like that mentality is not like that. It's for multiplayer games, there is a lot of people that think that way, right? Where it's like they play a game and they want to beat everyone or whatever, right? And it's not even about winning, right? I feel like a lot of people that don't like these kinds of things usually you know, we talked about like, oh, they're sweats or whatever, right? It's like, oh, they're just there for the competition and winning and blah blah blah, right? But that's not like it for me, because like, it's just how, for me, what the point of a hobby in general, right, is to like provide some sort of like personal development value in some way, right?
Yeah.
And by getting even something as silly as a game, right? Getting better at a game gives that satisfaction for me, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I actually want to hijack what you just said here, because I realized something. So you mentioned this thing about people calling people who are better than them at multiplayer games sweats.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's sort of the same thing as saying that a Dark Souls boss or a Souls-like boss is overtuned, right? It's like...
Yeah.
Because it's like... it's sort of this mentality that like, it's so hard that it's pointless for me to do, right? I feel like
what it is actually. I'm trying to like understand,
because I feel like there's a connection there. It's like the same thought process when someone calls a Souls-like boss overtuned is the same thought process that someone goes through when they call the enemy that just killed you a sweat. Right? It's sort of, or a cheater even, right? Because people do that all the time. It's like they're sort of saying that, you know, this is so much beyond my ability that it's not worth my time.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really interesting. I think I think I've told this story before, but the first time I played Sekiro, Sekiro was, by the way, the first Souls-like game I ever played. So like, I was completely new to them, and I was really, really bad at them when I played Sekiro. I got to what's he called? The first difficult boss, Genichiro.
I mean, yeah. It is.
Yeah, Because I had been like kind of lucky before that. Like there's like this boss on the horse.
Before him.
Well, there is like the guy on the horse, right?
Yeah, no, he's easy.
Yeah, I did him on the first try, so I was like, oh, this game is easy, whatever. And then I like do the like city section before the Genichiro boss.
Yeah.
And then I get to the boss, and I get stuck there, and I like keep grinding and grinding for like several hours, and I'm not even close. And so I'm like, okay, I must be like completely misunderstanding this game, or I must be doing something wrong, or I'm not even supposed to be here. Maybe I should go and grind or whatever, which you can't really do in Sekiro, but whatever. So I looked up a YouTube video of someone beating the boss, and I was like, holy crap, this guy is making this look easy, right? He's like dodging everything perfectly. He's got the timing down and whatever. Like obviously he's not struggling because he's the best ever at the game or whatever. And then I like closed down the video and I like went to bed. And then the next day I sat down and played Sekiro. And then I sort of realized that like, holy crap, I'm like starting to play like he did in the video. And then like I got better and better and better. And like this wasn't even over a very long period of time, right? It was like 2 days. Like I didn't play 2 days straight, but like a few hours one day and a few hours the other day. And then I finally beat Genichiro. And I realized that like my gameplay when I did that looked exactly like the video that I watched did. Which like the day prior I had watched that video and I was like, this is impossible. What the fuck? I'm never gonna play like this. And it's like... Yeah, it's just like super interesting to have that sort of experience. And it's not.
But then that bar like moves, right? So
yeah,
so
exactly.
If you have like that's sort of my point that people keep like. So I think for you that experience and probably more experiences have made you realize that okay, if I keep doing it, I get better. Like even if I don't see it now, I will see it later, right? From experience, basically. You can see that you can get more experience. But I feel like a lot of people, even though they've had those experiences, right? They don't make that connection in the same way, right? Where it's like, okay, so they got to the point where they did that in Sekiro or whatever. But then some other game, right? That's still impossible or whatever.
Yeah.
Or my point, or like let's say Sekiro is like the skill you reach the peak of the like because you can only parry, right? But if you have like I don't know, let's say you're playing beat 'em ups or something, right?
Yeah.
Final fight, right? Like just because you can get like you get what I'm saying, right? It gets you get to a point where you can do certain things, but then when you're at that point. It seems like to me that a lot of people don't recognize that they just need to keep going, right? So and start saying that no, this part is impossible.
Yeah.
But it's just like the part they just did. It's just that. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, to be fair, it does get harder with time, I think. Like as you raise the skill ceiling, raising the skill ceiling becomes harder.
Yeah, but it's also like it's not completely linear, like because I think the closer you are to the peak, the harder it is, or whatever. Like so again, we talked about multiplayer games last week, right? In those games, it's definitely faster for someone new now, right? To get to the peak, right? Because there's a lot of knowledge to build upon, right? And also you're playing in multiplayer games, you're playing the player, right? So they're playing better players, right? As well, right? So that helps with that as well. But even like something like you said, so you have a video of someone beating it, right? That shows you that, because like otherwise maybe you would think that no, it doesn't work, right? There's no videos of this guy. No one in the world has beaten this boss in Sekiro. He's actually impossible, right? You might end up thinking that, right?
Yeah.
But then you Google and it's like, oh no, there's like a million videos of people beating this boss. Actually, it's not that hard, right? It's because it's relative to how many videos you find, right? So then you're like, okay, what if you Google like the Dodonpachi Saidaiyojo True Last Boss video, right? Oh, look, there's like one or two guys. I think there's one guy that has beaten it in a real run ever. It's like, okay, now we're like that might take some more time, right?
Yeah.
To get to that point.
Mm-hmm.
But like if there's a lot of people doing something, it's very obvious that it is very achievable, right? And it might even be that things that people aren't doing are very achievable. It's just that people's skill ceiling needs to be erased or whatever.
Yeah. I think maybe a part of why like it's more like this with single player games than multiplayer games is that like single player games are maybe designed to be experienced in isolation, if that makes sense. So like with a multiplayer game, you're obviously playing with other people, right?
Yeah.
And so it's sort of expected by the designer for you to share knowledge and tips and tricks and whatever with other people and to learn from other people. Whereas with single player games, I think designers are kind of anti that stuff happening a bit, maybe. Does that make sense? Do you kind of get what I'm trying to say? Whereas I think it's actually like really natural and really cool to like when that happens with single player games too, right? Because that raises the skill ceiling, and that's sort of inherently interesting.
The incentives are different for single player though, but like from the developer side, I mean.
What do you mean?
Like their incentives is to make money, right? Generally, if they're a big studio.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no incentive for skill related. I guess even now that I say that multiplayer games are moving away from the skill stuff, right? They're trying to put you in like ranked brackets and grind stuff, right?
Yeah.
To shave off the like edge that comes from competitive playing or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But my point is that it's more fuzzy with single player games because there's like you can make a single player game that's like more of an experience, right? Which is fine, right? But the problem is when you're trying to make a game that is very gameplay oriented. You need to start looking at these things, right? Because otherwise it's not fun. But they're still trying to like we've talked about flow in the past, right? Or no, we haven't talked about flow. Have we talked about flow before?
We probably mentioned it once or twice.
Yeah, we've talked about it a lot offline, right? I'll just we can probably make a longer discussion about it, right? But it's like at some point. But I feel like the developers are like trying to focus more on for single player games. See now that I'm thinking about it, I'm realizing something. Okay. I think the problem is that you have the experience games, right? So you have the games that are like story focused or whatever, which is fine. But and then you have the like dopamine games or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a sort of problem here, right? That those maybe like this is just like brainstorming or whatever you want to call it, right? The games that are focusing on addictive mechanics are more popular than games that actually are interesting.
Yeah. So are you saying that like if we split games into two categories, experiences and gameplay focused games, then the gameplay focused games are being overtaken by the dopamine.
Yeah, that's what was that thought process was going.
Yeah, that's actually probably a good point because like if you look at like if you compare something like an arcade game to a roguelike, which is like what I would say a lot of roguelikes are not all of them, but a lot of roguelikes are
the lights at least.
This like exactly. They are this like dopamine rush thing, psychology stuff. There's like a lot of things that are similar between them. They're like run based and there's like often very little story and it's like very gameplay focused, right? It's like mostly gameplay, but like the big difference is that these like dopamine games are they don't actually have very deep gameplay, right?
Yeah.
They just have like progression systems or whatever, or stuff like that.
But I guess like the point is that you have this you have this mix between dopamine and gameplay. And what is happening, like, so if we go back in time, that mix was very skewed towards gameplay, right?
Yeah.
But what has been happening is that there started to be more and more dopamine garbage, right?
Yeah.
And that is overtaking the gameplay. But there is a fundamental. I mean, I guess it isn't really, because you can take dopamine to the max and just you have like Vampire Survivors or something, right? And people actually enjoy that. So never mind. I was gonna say you can't keep going in that direction, but like I feel like a lot of people want, like this is like the problem, right? I feel like there are people that want like gameplay games, like they do want it, but I feel like some of them at least don't recognize that they need to take, like they can't do what we're talking about, right? Where they can't say that, oh, this is overtuned and this is bad, and because like they're taking away from what they actually enjoy, right?
Yeah. This got me thinking of of like the second boss in Final Fight.
Yeah.
I think I like
the
showed
samurai
you.
guy? I don't remember.
Yeah, I think I tried to I streamed to you when I tried to beat him, right?
Yeah, with the awful sound effect.
Yeah, and I was struggling so much with that boss. Like I was like I couldn't get a hit in.
Yeah.
And then I like kept playing, and I like looked up a few videos and stuff like that as well. And then I finally beat him, and like now he's actually kind of easy to beat. But like when I first encountered him, I was like, it's literally physically impossible to even get a hit in. But the problem was that I was doing the completely wrong thing, so that's why I couldn't get a hit in. But it's like
yeah, and for sure, and like I fall into that all the time when I play shmups, because it's like, you know, there in a lot of shmups, there's like the patterns have like they're directed and stuff, right? And so you're like, oh no, this pattern, you're supposed to like figure out how to do this pattern, obviously, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh no, you're supposed to do this like weird move where you go to this side and then this side, and that's the only way to do it. But it's like, no, calm down, just keep dodging, and you'll get better, okay?
Yeah.
Right. So like, I get it. Like, I end up there as well, right? But my point is that I'm not gonna go and tell the developers to change the game, right? That's the thing that bothers me, right? Or saying that the game is bad because I can't do it.
Yeah.
And it becomes really hard to because games are like more product oriented or whatever, if that makes sense. Like you're supposed to sell them and make money. Satisfaction matters, right?
Yeah.
So there's this weird thing. I don't know how to how to say that.
I mean, isn't it sort of like what we always talk about, the FOMO thing, right?
Yeah,
where
maybe.
It's like people buy the game because they've heard of the game, and then they get mad that they can't beat the game, and so they go and complain because they want to beat the game because they don't want to miss out, right?
Yeah, but a lot of them even enjoy the gameplay, I think. They're just like internally justifying it with some reason, like, oh no, it's overtuned, right? That's the reason why I don't like this but like the other ones, right? In this moment, right?
Yeah.
Because if they just, because you hear that all the time, like since Dark Souls is very popular, right? You hear that all the time where people are like, oh, this game is bad, it's garbage, right? And then it's like they beat it and it's the best game they've ever played.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
like,
I feel like that's like everyone does that. Like probably not everyone, but like I do it. I know you do it. Like everyone I know does that. I think that's just like I think the problem is that.
But I think yes, go finish your.
Yeah, I think it's like the reason why you have that reaction, like, oh yeah, it's bullshit or whatever, is because you don't understand it, right?
Yeah.
But the thing is that as you practice, you start to gain understanding.
Yeah.
And then you start to appreciate it,
Yeah.
right? If it's interesting, it might not be interesting, but if it is.
But I feel like since you and I, for example, we go through this loop a lot, right?
Yeah.
And so we don't end up there as much, if that makes sense.
Yeah, like
right?
we push past it, yeah.
Or like, my point is that it's like, it's not like there are games now that I can't beat, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's always gonna be games I can't beat. I don't know what I'm trying to say. My point is that there's games that I'm playing that I don't end up in that situation anymore in that same way, right?
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. Like, I probably did at some point, like you said, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like, no, this game is actually really bad because I can't beat it. But I don't really end up there anymore, right?
Yeah. Well, it's more like I'm thinking more of like in the moment, like I get hit and I'm like, oh, what the fuck, that's bullshit. But then like after the fact, when I've had a few minutes to think about it, it's like, no, actually, I was just bad.
Yeah.
Right.
But even that is like yes, that happens. But like even that moves further and further. I guess especially with like when players are involved. But like for single player games, I feel that less and less. If that makes sense. Over time, just because like. Like I was playing, what was I playing? I was complaining, I was playing Gunvein, right? Remember that? And I was like complaining about the fact that you couldn't store your lives because I was bad at the final boss, right? And I was like, this game is trash because I can't. But I didn't genuinely feel it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like it was more of a like, it wasn't the way that we like some of these other people describe, where it's like, no, this game is the worst game ever. I'm gonna go on the Steam page, leave a bad review, and I'm gonna tell the developer to add an option to keep my lives to the end because this game should be made for me. Or it's like it didn't even really bother me. Like it bothered me in the moment because I was bad, right? But it wasn't even something I wanted changed, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I think this probably also has to do with like staying a little bit open-minded, right? I think a lot of people,
100%.
Yeah,
definitely.
I think
go ahead.
I think a lot of people go with like their initial reaction, where it's like, oh, this feels like bullshit, so it's bullshit, and I'm not gonna think about it anymore. Whereas, what you probably should do is like, your first reaction is, oh shit, this is bullshit, and then you're like keeping a little bit of an open mind and like seeing if it actually is or not. I guess.
Yeah.
No,
because like I realized that as an issue in like when I play games, right? Because I do see it in that way sometimes, where I'm like, the opposite, right? Where I'll play like again like a shmup or whatever, and I'll actually, it will be like funny to me, like in a that it's like it's comically hard, right? Or whatever. And that's actually, I enjoy that because it's like, this is like absolutely ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
And it becomes, I don't know, it's like, I guess it's fun when it's too hard. I don't know. Like, I don't know when this happened or whatever, right? But and I think it's the same for you, where it's like, if I start a game and I play the game and there's like nothing stopping me, right? I just keep going. I'm like waiting for, okay, where's the point where like I need to start using my brain or whatever.
Yeah.
Then I generally, I mean, with a shmup, I can just finish the shmup and like it's like 20 minutes, right? But if it's a longer game, it's like I can't be bothered anymore.
Yeah. I definitely think that's something I've noticed, like, get worse with time, because like when I was younger, I could play some atrocious games. Like I could play like, grind the RPGs.
But I think that is because your skill ceiling is rising. That's sort of my point.
Because
if you take someone that we talked about playing piano, if you take the guy that can play that insane piece, right, that can actually play that, he doesn't get any stimulation from playing like Happy Birthday or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That's like insanely boring to him.
Yeah.
Or her or whatever, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think.
Keep going.
I think. Sorry, what?
Keep going.
No, I think it. As you said, like it has to do with like the more games I play, the more like what's the word? The more I start expecting from them, I guess.
Yes, exactly.
And I think it's sorry.
But I feel like this thought is definitely not like we need to think more about this and make episodes or something about it at some point. Yeah. But like that's sort of my point, where like the way I look at games. If we go back to my original thesis or statement in the beginning of the video, it was that like I feel like people get to a point and then they don't move from that point, right? So they get to some sort of skill level that's the like accepted skill level of that genre, right? So in Souls it's like, oh, I can beat Souls games, right? And for shmups it's like, you know, oh, you can beat some like mid-level shmup or whatever. And then you're part of the like community or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then you stay there. And then what you do is you then you get to this, like, we complain about gimmicks a lot, right? You get to that point where like you start to like, oh, I want, like, you want new experiences from that genre, right? So like if we take like Souls, right? It's like you want new experiences from Souls, but you don't want them harder because you're at the like the level. So you're starting to look for like all these gimmick games, like, oh, it's Souls, but all you do is parry, and or oh, it's Souls, but you can change the worlds, right? And the thing is, those are like, they are not gonna give you the same satisfaction.
Yeah.
But if you just looked up instead, right? You looked at like the higher. I mean, in Souls maybe there isn't a lot, but like let's say we go back to shmups, right? There is insanely hard shmups, right? And they'll just like it will just like it just gets more fun the better you get, right? So if you just keep, and like there is you have a lot to go. There's a lot. What do you say? You can go far, right? Basically, right? It can take some time to get to the peak or whatever, right? And yeah, and that's sort of my issue, that like these. I mean, people can do whatever they want, to be clear, right? I'm not, but like to me that's so lame, I guess, because if everyone was instead of like doing this thing where like you make all these gimmick games and like genre blends and all this bullshit, right? You instead went like as a community and like tried to improve, right? Which is what happens in multiplayer games, by the way, because like you're playing against each other, and that's my point. If single player people did that as well for the gameplay oriented games again, right? They would all like have a more enjoyable experience, because the skill ceiling would rise, so the games would be more interesting and complex, and there would be more variety, because you get more variety as you get better. That's like another thing, right? The worse you are, the less variety there are, so the more gimmicks you need. Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but that's my
Yeah, it kind of does. I have nothing to add, I think.
Nothing at all.
Nothing at all. You said it so well. But yeah, well, there is actually one thing that I do want to add. Well, maybe now that I think of it, because I'm thinking of like the now we're going into weird hypothetical weird stuff, topics, whatever. But I'm thinking like the cultural impact of this happening. Like, what would it be? And like, one part of me says like, okay, we would get way better games.
You would,
right?
Yeah.
We would, yes. But then I look at multiplayer games, and
Oh, no.
I'm not sure that's true.
Never mind, you're right. Crap.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's true
No.
actually.
Yeah. But like another funny aspect of that is you would get more variety in the skill department as well, right? Because there would be like more interesting games for players with less skill as well, ironically, right? Because there would just be
because
more
people just get better at making games.
Yeah, and like the better people are at the, it's like if you take a music genre or whatever, right? The more like established it is, the like more variety there is in it or whatever, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I think actually like music is a very good comparison here, because it's like if someone makes like an extraordinary album or whatever that's like super what's it called, like forward thinking and super new and super unique, you know, that album doesn't keep existing in a vacuum. People start like copying from it and stuff, right? And so what ends up happening is that the like more mainstream music becomes better and more interesting too, right? Because they're borrowing ideas from this like super interesting and like avant-garde new music or whatever. And I guess
in the games there's like a fine line. So like I was complaining about gimmick stuff, right? I guess there is technically a fine line between like what's gimmick and what's innovation, right?
Yeah.
But that one is more hard to specify.
I mean, look at something like Dark Souls, for example. That's a very good example of what I'm trying to say. It's like something like Dark Souls didn't exist, and then FromSoft they made Demon Souls first, and then they made Dark Souls, and Dark Souls became super popular, and like now everybody's trying to copy that, and so we have a bunch of games that are inspired by that game. That's sort of the thing.
Yeah, for sure. But my like what am I trying to say? So you'll have like gimmicks that are actually interesting and create new genres or whatever. Like with music or whatever. But again, like I said before, if the skill level is stagnating, right? It's in one spot. Then you go. Well, we were talking at some point. We were talking about like Final Fight, but with Balatro cards or something, right?
Yeah.
That's where you end up if, like, let's say everyone, well, no one, like, most people consider beat 'em ups too hard, I guess. But like, let's say there was a huge beat 'em up community, right? And the skill, not ceiling, the skill like level was at you can beat Final Fight, right? Then there's like only so much. I mean, like, I guess my point is that what starts to happen when the skill stagnates is that the genre starts going wide, which makes sense, right? But I feel like a lot of the time the games that are being provided are not that interesting, right? But that might be just because they're bad at design. I don't know.
Yeah, I think beat 'em ups is actually a pretty good example of that, because if you look at like modern beat 'em ups, they are usually very gimmicky, right?
Yeah.
Like if you look at something like Final Fight, it's
but those
very,
are way lower than Final Fight's level, right? In terms of gameplay. I would assume.
Yeah. Like I actually haven't played that many beat 'em ups, but like from what I've seen, But yeah, like if you look at something like Final Fight is very, very pure, right? There's very few mechanics. It's just like a really well balanced game, essentially.
Yeah.
But if you look at more modern beat 'em ups, they tend to have like a billion different mechanics and like iframe dodges and combos and stuff like that. And it's like,
yeah. I guess my point is that the harder a game is, the less you have to change to make it different. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's true.
That's my point, right? Where like when you get to a certain level and all the area is explored, I mean, everything is never gonna be explored. But you get what I'm saying. Like people have generally explored what that area has. Then there is two directions. It's either go wide, as in you blend it with other stuff, or go deeper or higher, right? Which is you raise the skill ceiling.
Yeah.
And if you raise the skill ceiling, then you get more, like you can tweak things more finely or whatever, and get more variety, right? Yeah. If something is extremely hard, if you change it a little bit, it's gonna be a huge difference, right? But if something is easy, it doesn't matter what you do. You can just change whatever you want. It's gonna be easy, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be the same.
Yeah, it's not gonna matter. Like we talk about this all of the time with RPGs, right? It's super important in RPGs, RPGs, sorry, right? Where it's like these RPGs have all of these weird systems, and it's like, oh, you can just do the attack, not engage with a single one of these systems.
Yeah.
And
yeah, like, it's like
yeah. And that goes for other, like we said, with like beat 'em ups and shoot 'em ups as well, right? It's most just that it's more in the like nuance of the movement and the you know, like it's not in the like what abilities you take. It's more like, oh, if I move, I mean, like bullet hell shmup, right? The more bullets are on the screen, the less you can move, right? So
yeah,
the more like moving a bullet. If there's a screen covered in bullets and you move a bullet like 1 centimeter to the left, that's gonna make a huge difference. Whereas if you move it and there's no bullets, it doesn't matter, right? You can just be wherever except for there, right?
Yeah. I think it's actually pretty funny that you mentioned RPGs, because like RPGs aren't that hard and haven't historically been that hard. Like
no, for sure, they've always been easy.
They've always been pretty easy, and it's very interesting because if you look at modern RPGs, they do this thing that you talked about, where it's like they just add a bunch of mechanics. I think I mentioned in an episode way back the Pathfinder games, like the computer Pathfinder games. The first one, I played that one, and I didn't really enjoy it. But then I got like, I don't know, a few hours in, and then it like unlocked this whole kingdom management system, whatever, which was like completely detached from the game and was just another random mechanic, like super big mechanic that you had to spend a lot of time in, but it wasn't interesting, and it wasn't connected to the RPG systems at all or whatever. Yeah. And I think they released a second Pathfinder, and I think that game did something similar. And it seems like that's sort of the direction RPGs are going in, where they add a bunch of like random systems because they aren't actually capable of, like, RPG designers aren't actually capable of innovating on the actual RPG mechanics. So they just make their RPG Dungeons and Dragons, and then they bolt something else onto it.
Yeah. Whereas if there was actually a lot of skill in Dungeons and Dragons, then there would be more like things they could tweak, if that makes sense. Because they can tweak a lot of things, and it's not gonna make any difference, right? Because there's no. But in their defense, that's more like we've talked about this before, right? Where like Dungeons and Dragons is like not that interesting because like they should just focus on the role playing stuff, right? Not the. Like they should go either way, and it's like it's just bad. Both are whatever. We're not going there today. Yep.
Yeah. But it's interesting. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Especially because it's like so hard to balance RPGs. Because it's like easy to like make an OP build and whatever, and then the rest of the game is invalidated.
Yeah, I mean there are ways around that, like not having too many variables and having a lot of random stuff.
Yes, and also making it run based.
Yeah, I mean that's random basically.
Yeah.
Grind obviously can't be there, but I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Or I mean I guess grind can be there, but it needs to be like, capped somehow. Like
like with time or whatever.
Yeah, or turns or whatever. Because grind without that doesn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
It might be like, I don't know. It seems very, very pointless in that case, right? It's literally wasting your time.
Yes.
Because like, there's no argument. I can't come up. Maybe if there is a reason, please tell me. But like, no, it's just literally like if if you can just grind forever, it's just there to...
Yeah, like there is no gameplay.
Yeah, then there is no gameplay, basically.
Or well, you can circumvent the gameplay, and therefore there is no gameplay, I guess.
I mean,
if you
we
want
know
to
what
take
the
it
point
further.
is. The point is to raise
Yeah.
the hour count, right? So they don't refund it on Steam or whatever. So people can say, oh, this game is great. It's 50 hours long. Yay.
Yeah. Yeah. There was one thing that's sort of unrelated to what we've been talking about so far today, that I wanted to mention about balancing, and it has to do with Counter-Strike. So we're going back to multiplayer games.
No, this is a single player episode. You can't talk
no,
about
but I'm gonna connect it to single player games.
It better be
after
really
this.
good, or I'm gonna cut it.
Yeah. So this is sort of this thought I've been having, and it's probably not actually an original thought. I've probably like heard someone else say it and then forgotten about it and then thought about it again
Basically
or whatever.
Everyone's thoughts ever.
Yeah. But it's and I'm not sure about the name for this because I have decided to give this a name, and it goes back to, I think, the episode 2 videos ago where we talked about tactics and strategy and stuff. And that is, I want to talk about tactical versus strategic balancing. Okay.
Okay.
And the reason that I make this distinction, and the reason why I'm going to bring up CS now, is because CS has like one of the clearest examples of strategic balancing ever, which is in the economy. So in CS, you have different weapons, right? You have the M4, you have the AK, you have the SMGs or whatever. And some weapons are objectively better than others, right?
Yep.
And the way they are balanced is by making you pay for the weapons. And so better weapons are generally more expensive. Not always, but people don't buy bad expensive weapons, so it's fine. And I see this as sort of strategic balancing, if that makes sense. Do you kind of see where I'm going here with strategic versus tactical?
Maybe.
Where it's like the thing isn't actually balanced, but it's balanced by a strategic layer, or whatever you want to call it, right? And there's actually a bad example of this as well, which is very, very, very in fashion now. And I guess that's sort of my thesis with this, is that strategic balance is very in fashion, whereas tactical balance is not.
Yeah, but we talked about that last week, didn't we? Where that ties back to the fact that people are insecure about tactical balance.
Yeah.
Did we talk about that when we did this? I don't remember.
I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we could bring it up again so people...
Yeah.
Yeah, so like what we said was basically that it's generally accepted that strategic balancing is something you can learn, right? So people accept strategic difficulty more, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, difficulty, not balancing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas tactical balancing or difficulty is not accepted, right? That's the Souls thing, right?
Yeah.
That's like, oh, the boss is too hard, tune it down, right? Whereas in a strategic environment, like you can make an OP build, that is generally accepted difficulty because they can just look it up or whatever. Like it is actually in practice very similar, right? It's just that people think differently about strategic balance.
Yeah.
Because you need basically the same amount of time is the point, right? To learn builds versus to learn tactics.
Yeah. But yeah, so I was teasing everyone. So there is actually a bad. The guns in CS, I would say, are an example of good strategic balancing because it's like interesting and stuff like that. But there is one trend in modern games that's a very, very bad example of strategic balancing, and that's like alts and meters and bars. So. I mean, I've praised Sekiro a bit today, so I'm gonna have to be mean towards Sekiro now to be fair. And Sekiro is a perfect example of this.
I'm not sure. This is gonna be spicy here. I might disagree completely.
Okay. Well, it's not the best example, but it is a game that does this.
I think it might be completely wrong in this case, in my opinion. Well, let's see.
Maybe. Okay. You'll have to say if you disagree.
Yeah.
So so you have Dark Souls, right? And in Dark Souls you like have a parry, but it isn't a parry based game or whatever. And then in Sekiro they made the parry way more of a focus. The problem is that the parry is OP, right? Because you can just deflect all damage.
Yeah, I mean it's OP in
not
Souls
all
as
damage.
well, or like the equivalent in Souls is the roll, right?
Yeah,
and that's also OP, and that's also true. Balanced by a bar.
That's also true, actually. Yeah. That's a good point. But yeah, so what I was gonna say is that the parry is balanced by like a stamina bar, right? So you can only take so many hits before your parry breaks, and then you can't parry anymore.
Is that true? I am not. I'm not Sekiro master, but I think if you perfect parry, you might not lose.
Maybe that's true.
Stamina.
I
could be wrong.
I played it.
It might be that it's just a small amount, not.
Yeah.
But it's definitely less. Like the worse your parry is, timing is, the like more stamina drain or whatever it takes.
Yeah. But yeah, like Sekiro isn't like the worst example of this, and I wouldn't say Sekiro is a bad game still, but like that sort of balancing where it's like you add something OP and to balance it you like add a resource or whatever.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying it's necessarily bad always, but I feel like at least in modern games the like alternative space is not explored enough
at all.
Yeah,
basically. Yeah, no, so like I think I both agree and disagree with you because like I guess I've generally played a lot of games that are very bar focused, I guess, or whatever, like MOBAs or whatever.
Yeah.
And they have ults or whatever, and they have cooldowns and stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't what am I saying? Like I think that is fine. Like
yeah, I'm probably thinking more of like in action games mostly, like in RPGs. I mean,
and
even stuff,
even in like action games, like we said with the stamina bar, that's fine as well in Souls, right? That mitigates the roll.
Yeah.
I guess the argument could be made that it would be more interesting if it was situational instead of like I like the problem with what is happening, right? I think is more that not necessarily that they're resource based, it's that they are the mechanics are not situational, and their only limiting factor is the resource.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you're so like
which is like
it's
Souls,
the thing you always want to do, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it's not necessarily always a bad thing, right? But it's definitely the case that like newer games don't explore the like other space as much, for sure. Right?
Yeah.
And if you take like, but there are like bars that are absolute garbage, right? They are completely unacceptable. Like modern fighting games have these like bars where like if you take damage you get an ability.
Yeah.
But that's not necessarily because it's a bar. It's just ridiculously stupid to give someone something for being bad, right? In a competitive game.
Yeah.
Because then you're dragging the game basically by yeah.
I mean, we talked about comeback mechanics last week. You should
it's basically comeback
episode.
Mechanics.
Yeah. But yeah, I actually had so.
Can I add one thing to that? If you
sorry. Go
ahead. So but there is another layer to that which is like a bit more depressing. That I feel like it's not only that they're balancing in that way, it's also it goes back to the like dopamine casino BS, because it's I think they understand that like, you know, the games are now we're gonna be mean. We're gonna be super mean, right? A lot of modern games are very brain dead. You just click buttons and things die, right? And even bad players recognize this. So how do you make them engaged? Well, you have a thing at the bottom that goes up, and then it goes ding, 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 and then you click a button, and then a cool animation happens, and then it goes back to 0.
Yeah.
Right. So it's basically going back into the feedback loop of the like dopamine stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, I absolutely hate it as well, right? Where it's done in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of the modern, I don't know if we should come up with a better name than modern, because at some point, yeah, whatever.
At some point, they're not gonna be modern.
I mean, they aren't. It's like we're talking about stuff that was like normalized. Like
10 years
15
ago.
years ago or something.
Yeah.
But I feel like a lot of the way the mechanics are designed actually come from that space, right? From the like Skinner box and grind, blah blah, right? It's just translated into mechanics, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what people know and recognize or whatever.
Yeah. Absolutely. But yes, I wanted to give an example of good tactical balancing, I guess, because I have given examples of strategic balancing, so that this like distinction that I'm trying to make here, and maybe there's a better word for it than tactical versus strategic and whatever. But anyways, so we talked about Final Fight already, right? And I think Final Fight is like a masterpiece in tactical balancing. Now, Final Fight does have like what do you want to call it, like an ult ability where you press a button and then you do a spin kick and hit everyone around you, and then you drain health in exchange. So it does have that, that's like one mechanic that's more strategic balancing, right? So it's sort of like a panic button that you press when you're in a fucked situation, but you can only do it so many times until you die and you run out of health and whatever. But beyond that mechanic, basically everything in Final Fight is like super tactically balanced. It's basically only relying on like your moveset, the fact that it's like sort of limited, and then the enemies and how they interact with each other and how they interact with you and how they overlap and stuff like that. And I think especially one really interesting thing is that what's the guy called? The like default character that isn't the big bulky guy. He can do this like infinite combo, right? Where it's like he punches 2 times, then he turns around, punches once, and then he turns back around and punches 2 times. Because like if you keep punching, you eventually go into like this combo with an uppercut and stuff, which like pauses your attacks. But if you keep doing the back and forth quote unquote exploit, because it's not really an exploit, but you can basically attack infinitely and like stun lock people infinitely. And the interesting thing is that this sounds completely OP, right? It's like, okay, you can infinitely stun lock enemies and you can infinitely deal damage to them, and you're completely safe. But the thing is that you aren't, because like the enemy design in Final Fight is like so good. So you'll have like, there's this guy with knives that will like jump over you and do like a backflip and like hit you with knives in the head and stuff. And then there'll be like a big guy that like runs from the edge of the screen like super fast before you can get your attack in and whatever. And like, so like in the enemy design, it's like there are counters to this super OP thing, like, because this thing is like super OP, right? But like it's still balanced by the fact that like the enemies interact with, and there's also so many enemies, right? So it's like even if they wouldn't have like elaborate moves that could deal with it, there's still so many of them that like they could probably do something about it, right? And then they can also come from the Z-axis and stuff like that. So there's like a bunch of ways that this is balanced.
Isn't it situational in a way, right? Because it's like, it's really good when you have everyone aligned next to you, but like
exactly,
not otherwise, right?
Yeah,
and that's
so they're like
sort
optimal
of counter to what I think, like what you were trying to say earlier, right? With like, they could have just made that not like way easier to set up, but there's a bar, right? So then it's like move around and like wait for that bar to regen or something, right? And that's way less interesting than the tactical nuance that comes from the fact that you can't always do this efficiently, right? I think that's lost a lot of the time when you balance around bars, right? I agree with that.
And so I think I think Final Fight is like a very interesting game in that sense, because it's like almost purely tactically balanced, and it's also very well balanced. But yeah, that's my sort of theory in a nutshell, I guess. Yeah, we've been talking for quite a while now. I guess we've made our point, don't you think, Edvard?
I don't know. The commenters will have to tell us if anything we said made any sense.
Yeah, maybe a bit like esoteric today, but we like to be esoteric.
I prefer it that way, honestly.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks everyone for listening. If you have anything interesting to say, please leave it in the comments, and also leave likes and dislikes and subscribe and all that like usual.
One more thing, by the way.
Yes.
Like we were discussing earlier at some point to maybe have like a Discord or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I'm just asking, is there any interest in that? Like, do people want to discuss stuff in some maybe not Discord? I don't know. Like, leave in the comments if there's any interest in any stuff like that, and we set something up. Like basically some sort of forum to discuss game design, right? Discord is probably still the easiest way, right? So let us know if there's interest. Otherwise, we'll just like, you can also leave no, we don't. I just want to listen to you while I vacuum the floor. That's also fine.
And then I'll leave a comment, and then that's it. Yeah.
That's also fine. Yeah. So, but and then we'll not do the Discord thing, I guess. Yeah, we're cool with that. It's just if there is anyone interested,
Yeah, we won't be sad if you say no.
Yeah, I mean a little bit maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
No.
I will be stone cold. Yeah. Whatever. Yeah. Thanks for listening, everybody. Goodbye.
Bye.